Finally, to our life energy update for energetically sensitives, empaths, and awakenings. Now, this is a weird title, but what this basically means is I'm giving a weather forecast here for the energies of this next week, November 24th till 30th of November 2017, week 48. And yes, if you are new to this form of reporting slash forecasting, let me just briefly tell you what I'm doing here. My name is Bryndis. I'm an energy healer and energy coach at transCODES, and what we do is we work with energetically sensitives and empaths from all over the world and create like a weekly sort of tendency. And we can also, due to the fact that these people that we work with are highly sensitive and visionary, come up with a little bit of a forecast. So there is absolutely no guarantee that any of this is valid. I'm not a clairvoyant. I'm not an astrologer either. What I'm doing is creating trends here, trends based on people's subjective experience, and due to the selection of people that we work with, these energy updates are usually pretty accurate, at least for those of us who are energetically sensitive as well. Now, new this week is that I'm actually adding a permanent section here called crypto news. And if you don't know what cryptos are, that refers to the cryptocurrency world, Bitcoin, which I have started to adapt here in my energy updates since the beginning of the year, because they are part of the manifestations of all these changes that we're seeing in the world. All right, I have no clue if there was anybody here. I had major technical difficulties starting this live update, and so I'm not really sure. If you are here, give me a lot of feedback, and a heartfelt welcome to all of you. Let me know what countries you are joining in from, because our sort of selection of people that we work with is one that covers the entire world, and it's amazing for us to see who is identifying themselves as energetically sensitives. So anyway, all labels aside and all pre-talk here, I'm just happy to be here. And even if I'm just recording into nowhere, you're going to have the edited version of this video with a written report in a couple of days. What am I going to talk about? So first I'm going to do a little overview over what the general situation, the general energetic situation is right now. I'm going to go into a review of last week where we talk about some of the sensations that most people I have been working with reported. And then I'm going to go into the forecast part here of this live energy update. And I'm going to reflect on the crypto world. New is, although I'm not a financial advisor, and you're going to see a big disclaimer here in the edited version of the video, I'm going to give you guys a little few tips, things that I do right now, and I'm going to explain why I want you to consider these. All right, so again, any type of advice, any type of recommendation coming here reflects my personal opinion. And then last but not least, we're going to finish up with practical tips, energy tips. All right, and this can include anything from your relationships to your financial situation to in-depth energy work. Every week is a little different. All right, this energy update will be shorter than most energy updates. So I'm just going to zoom through. Hi to Canada. I'm just going to zoom through this energy update here today, because here in the United States, where I'm airing from, we have Thanksgiving today, and I have my house full with family, and I was baking and cooking all night, and we are about to commence the Thanksgiving procedure here. All right, so again, welcome. everybody. All right, today I'm going to be talking about some of the shifts that we've experiencing. And if you look at the edited video right now, you're going to see my energy barometer here that I come up with every week. It's also on the transCODES front page, www.transcodes.com. And you'll notice something really weird about this week's barometer. It actually has 2 arrows. And one part of the arrow is in the red zone, like sort of dark orange red. And the other side of the arrow is like right on the opposite in the green zone. And you may ask yourself, oh, did you make a mistake there? Mistakes happen quite frequently with me since I often do energy work, energy healing. I'm not always in that sort of left part of my brain. I'm trying to use both parts, and sometimes form gets lost a little bit because I focus on the context and the content that is revealing itself in this higher vibratory context. Anyway, you'll notice this double arrow this week, and I've mentioned this in past energy updates already, and I've talked a lot about bifurcation this entire year, and part of that is that we have so the experience of our reality can be very different. And there's probably like 80-90% of the population that will experience these times, especially like the last year or two, as very challenging, because there's a lot of changes, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear involved in that. And we've talked about all the depth or deeper aspects of it here in these last weeks, every week. And then there will be a smaller part, and this is usually those who are really well connected within, who are actually seeing the opportunity, who are actually seeing the fortune in all these changes and the new doors that are opening. All right, so there is an arrow now into both directions, because this experience can be almost diametrical opposed. All right, so don't think it's a mistake. So let's go into the keywords for this week. The keywords for this week is a link to faith, our trust in our higher power, and I've talked a lot about externalization in the past. So the inner higher power and the inner guidance that we all have in us, but that we have not yet been fully trained to access and to feel confident enough with. And this will be a big subject here for the next week, but pretty much for the rest of the year. Then many of us have been going through relationship issues in the past weeks, and we're going to move into resolution. But the resolution will be maybe a little bit different from how we think it should be, or how our ego wants it. More so like a curveball being thrown into our relationships, because we have been going through all these revelations of truth, of our inner deceptions, of our ego twistings, so to speak, and how we cope with challenges in our life. And found out that a lot of times we're not actually facing anything. We're not actually dealing with things. This was the subject of the last 3-4 weeks. And we are kind of being forced into the consequences of this right now. So there's a possibility that you actually come up with really, really cool new ways of approaching your relationship in regards to expressing yourself, expressing your needs, and expressing your wants. Or you go into the opposite and actually realize that you have not been true to yourself at all in the past. And so this curveball can bring in a little bit of a surprise, because the ego kind of wants things to go back to normal, in quotation marks. The ego likes things that are familiar, no matter how dysfunctional they are. And so this whole resolution finding process is now very much dependent on our inner alignment. And I went back to my forecast for 2017, and I talked about all these things at the end of December. And it was really interesting for myself to sort of call in this feedback. This is something I talked a lot about this week to our transCODES, our energy healers here that are trained here, and our clients, to really go into feedback with things when they go well. And I've recommended people to go and look back, how far you have come, even if you feel like you're stuck at a point or you're regressing. Most of us have done a lot of groundwork in this year. And we've learned how to overcome a lot of resistances and also these deceptions, not just outer deceptions, like conspiracy theory and truth and news and so forth, but more so like these unconscious deceptions that we experience within ourselves, like the blind spots that we have. So most of you guys have done a lot of nitty-gritty groundwork this year, and I want to really congratulate you for having had the willingness and the courage to do this. This is what it means to actually dive into the deeper aspects of consciousness. And last week I said this is the time now of active self-healing. Do not underestimate that, guys. We have to be proactive now. And if you want to find solutions, especially higher vibratory solutions, solutions that have to do with peace, harmony, love, healing, and abundance, you're going to need this trust in your alignment that your energy will carry you there, provided that you are in truth and that you are integrous internally, which means to actually do and say the things that you feel, that you truly want. All right, there are a few things still that we need to work on, and this week we'll bring in sort of the aspects of liberation of our false identities, our false self, as we call it. We need to build a very strong stance now, and for that we really have to shed all these false identities. And the reason why I say we need to is because collective energies are kind of forcing us into this place of sovereignty. And sovereignty means that we are letting go of all this externalization to others, to the government, to the system, and even to our ego, really, which include our perception of love, our perception of inner power. Hey, Matthew from South Africa. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know where you guys are from. It's so beautiful. I know those here in America are probably busy with eating right now, which I will be in a few minutes here as well. But the rest of the world does not celebrate Thanksgiving at this time. So I figured I may as well do an energy update regardless. Yeah, so it is our inner alignment that can help us to find these higher vibratory solutions that I talk so much about. And those are basically our higher goals. But when we are incongruent, then of course it becomes impossible to reach those goals. And we constantly feel like we're regressing or getting stuck or in repeat. Okay, so you got to understand that it's not the outer conditions really that are the impotence. It's oftentimes the inner integrity within ourselves and the incongruence that most of us have. Now, I do want to point out, as I did in the past, to make compromises, to make conscious compromises is not the same as being incongruent. All right, so being incongruent is more like being fake or being phony or being too insecure to actually say or express our truth. Welcome to Trinidad. This is different. It's when we don't fully trust yet that our inner power or inner light, if you will, can carry us through this initial darkness. So this uncertain, and Denmark, yoo-hoo! I'm from Iceland, and I barely ever see anybody from Iceland. But if you're from Iceland, I want to see this like with tons of hearts. So where was I? Oh gosh, this is the ego. See, as soon as our identifications kick in, we get mind wiped. By saying that I'm from Iceland, of course this was my pride, being Icelandic and all that. I can't really sustain this higher vibratory alignment. All right, and you see me smiling as I'm saying this, because one of the big things we learn is just to accept that. This was a big part of the last couple of weeks, to accept that our ego can really mess with us. I mean, on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and energetically. And this is one of the works that we offer here at transCODES to train you in these things so that you can become better. Australia, that you can become better at discerning when you are in your ego and when you're not. So last week we worked a lot on trying to find out the differences and literally asking our inner guidance system to give us a signal, to give us a feedback signal or a reference feeling, as we call it, for when we are in ego, because that allows us to know that when we are in our ego, that we are literally in a blind spot right now, and it helps us to shift and to transcend into higher vibratory states, which are the ones that we want to manifest and to live our life in. All right, so that is so much for the inner alignment. And, if you're not really familiar with this energy work lingo or even with some of these esoteric terms that I use, it's really about faith. All right, there's a lot, and not necessarily religious faith, but also religious faith. Okay, so we're going to actually see some religious issues come up this week because this corrective energy that we're going through right now forces us to actually believe. All right, but not believe as in hopes and dreams and wishful thinking, but believe as in really trusting our inner light, which here now to its the end mileage sort of in this year really wants to come forward. All right, so faith is a big issue for the end of the year energies here in 2017. But other than that, it will affect our identity, and the identity, like it's not just the false self stuff. It's actually also the very practical stuff of identity that we're going to have to deal with this week, and especially in regards to data identity. Okay, I'm going to cover this here in a minute when I talk about cryptos, but there is a lot of talk in the background right now about the security of our data, our personal data, and the sovereignty that we should be able to have that we don't at the moment. Most people are not aware of this. But we don't really own our data at this point. And I can tell you now that next year, this is probably going to be the biggest topic. All right, there's developments in Europe, new standards, new regulations that are coming forward in regards to our privacy, our right to own our data, and there is some wonderful companies, startups that are working with this, especially in the crypto environment right now, that we will be hearing a lot about next week. So right now, when we are dealing with identity, making a stance, moving into our sovereignty and becoming more aware, of what our liberty and safety and security actually should entail, even in relationships, then all these subjects will come up. This week they'll come up more sort of as in an explosion, as in showing us all the stuff that does not work. All right, so that's the curveball. The curveball is that we're still in this correction energy, and that forces us to look at the things that do not line up with our goals, that do not line up with our higher vibratory alignment. Okay, so that's going to be the challenge for this week. But at the same time, and this is the beautiful thing here, when you can actually believe in a little bit of woo-woo and the consciousness research also that is flowing into all of this now. Those are not separate things anymore. All right, so for me, originally as a scientist, coming into this world, into this business world, then into the software industry, and then move into its business consulting, away from that into nutritional consulting, and then into energy work and energy healing. For me, all these things now totally make sense. While I was struggling, with these different kinds of careers for myself all these years, I felt, sort of like getting stuck every time. I felt like, no, this is not what I want. This is not really feeling true to me. And I felt a bit like a loser. I'm from this generation where you made, you had your education, you had a degree, and then you got your job, and then you did this job until you retire. And I could not function on this way. This would not work, would not line up with my inner integrity. But if I look at it from today's perspective, it all makes sense. All these things that I've learned in these really different areas of expertise and accumulating knowledge, all the way to the new age woo-woo shamanism and so forth. It's all in here, all right? And what I am teaching today is a combination, or more sort of the merging of all of these. And this is kind of like where we all have to move into. We have to stop compartmentalizing our lives into, well, this is my work life, this is my relationship life, this is my social life. This is not congruent anymore, because according to our goals, we want to be in a place of abundance, of where we can actually correct ourselves, and where we can shift into this changed and more liberated view of our life and ourselves. And for that, we need energetic integrity. And this is why we teach people how to learn how to work with their own energies, and we take the woo-woo aspect out. We don't disregard it. So we still use words such as divine order and divine consciousness, because they are very important for understanding some of these non-linear concepts. We just simply don't have any better words. Okay, but this week we're going to be reminded on things such as divine order, and not order as in law and order, but order as in there is a larger power at work. And if we can trust in this, and then we can align to this larger power flowing through us, emanating through us in form of our true self, in form of our ability to tap into this divine consciousness through our heart, then we are evolving in a quantum leap manner. But those of us who resist, and I'm not saying like you have to have a certain belief, this is not what I'm saying, but who resist their inner guidance and their inner call for truth and integrity, they will experience this, and also the future, probably the next 6-7 years, as extremely challenging and maybe even downgrading. So some things here in the United States that will come forward is the processing of the American shadow. This is in full process right now, and I'm predicting that in a couple of months from now, when there will be a change in sort of what is generally accepted as world currency, or at least foundation for financial transactions in the world, which may not be the US dollar anymore, that the United States is going into a phase of like at least 7 to 10 years of really processing through some of its karmic collective shadow. All right, but this doesn't have to be a negative thing. Actually, I choose to live in the United States because I still see a lot of advantages here, and Even if a nation has to go through this sort of grounding process, this doesn't mean that it's a bad place to be in. But you got to be aware of this. And this has to do with the act of self-healing that I mentioned earlier. But I'm not going to talk about this more here. In our personal lives, the situation is that we are being forced now to really look at the larger picture also in our relationships, and what do we actually want. There will be a lot of sort of new energy coming in, and it will make us very passionate again. Many of you have been lacking that over the past weeks and months, so this will come back in. But then you got to pay a lot of attention, because what happens when your passion comes in, for most of us, second chakra, it usually triggers our ego, and the ego takes off with it, and we go into greed, we go into more, we want more sex, we want more of this feel good and eat a lot, and all this what initially sort of got us here into this constant coping and the ego addiction, yes, that is holding us back from evolving. It can throw us right back into this. So we got to pay a lot of attention here next week, because it will feel good at first. But then remember, when your ego gets really excited about things and goes like, yeah, let's get more, that's when, you beckon your ego. This is one of these ego signals that you have to work out for yourself here. All right. The main thing to understand why this is even needed here for our collective evolution is that it forces us to, oh God, this is so cool. It forces us to come up with new rules of engagement. And those of you working with me here in transCODES and with these fantastic energy workers that here at transCODES, you know this, especially last weekend, we've worked on learning, or we've learned and trained how to change, well, first of all, how to see these unseen aspects of human interaction. And it got me banned on Facebook again, so yeah, I'm taking one for the team. But what's more important is that we have these abilities to actually feel and see these energies between people, but we don't know yet. We don't have enough guidance. We're not being taught. In 10 years from now, I'm actually hoping that these things will be taught in school. I mean, the youngest child I have is 3, and he's already aware of these things. So I don't see any reason why this can't be taught to our children at a very early stage. Their brain structure is different anyway, and as you know, this dramatic rise in spectrum symptoms in kids, ADHD, autism, functional autism, Asperger's, and so forth. I've written a lot of articles, or not a lot, 2 or 3 articles about this, and my views are nothing but sort of the neurodivergence that will lead to a higher form of evolution in our neurological system. So while they are still incompatible to, like, say, the school system right now, they are the future. They are the future of signal processing, because we can see this in energetically sensitives and empaths as well. All right. In other words, actually, most of us empaths, if we were born into these days, we would have been qualified as or labeled as ADHD or some form of autism or dyslexic or whatever. If I do a poll and ask my clients, how many of you feel like or felt that way when you were children, it'll be like 80%. Okay, so just a little on a side note here, neurodivergence does not mean that people are dysfunctional or that they have a disorder. When we see things like this, these massive shifts in our younger generations, then it's pretty safe to assume that this is sort of the next evolutionary development. It just doesn't fit into the system as of yet. And the system is, of course, what a lot of you call the matrix. I prefer to call it like the collective consciousness, the collective unconsciousness, really, because it is a grid, and yes, we can see things there. So this is our work, to see energies, how they affect the grid, and also to change some of these things, to hack into some of these things. So some of you may be interested in this deeper energetic coding work that we offer. All right, but I don't want to talk too much about this because then I get all these requests about conspiracy theories and so forth. But you can always email me at jona@transcodes.com, or I prefer actually questions in the commentary section here, because that allows me to answer it and for everybody to read it too, so I don't have to repeat myself too much. So anyway. So new rules of engagement. This is what we're being forced to do, and it will create new standards for our integrity. And we can see this in relationships of energetically sensitive. So there's quite a few people actually who are in relationship with another empath. And we also know the kind of relationship that does not work well, which is the narcissist and the empath relationship that is so much talked about. But I've already offered a different or a more neutral view on that, and that is that narcissists, well, however you come to that label, which in my view is a bit judgmental, but are energetically sensitives as well, just never really learned how to cope with this. In a healthy way. And so when an empath and an empath, or an energetically sensitive and an energetically sensitive person come and form a relationship, a whole new level of energetic integrity and interaction is formed. And very often, and this does sound like something you may have heard in regards to twin soul or twin flame relationships. And this is the bit in twin flame that is actually true from my perspective and my own experience. When two energetically sensitives come together that both have a higher vibratory alignment. Now, not every energetically sensitive person has a higher vibratory alignment. For example, narcissists or anything into this direction. But when two people come together that have higher vibratory alignment and the awareness and the tools, so to speak, to work this, then a whole new form of synergy occurs. And that synergy is what creates sort of a larger purpose for the couple. They come together not just because, of some of the collective props, like money, provision, house, dog, kids, diamond ring, and all of the above. But they come together because they feel this attraction to go and find a larger purpose together. And this is one of the mysterious and miraculous things that we observe when these relationships form. And again, those are very rare, and a lot of people get unfortunately stuck in these romanticized or actually straight out misleading concepts of twin soul and twin flame and soulmate and all that, and actually misinterpret their karmic relationships as special. So there's a lot of specialness attached to this, which is why you don't hear me talk about this a lot. I have written articles, critical view on twin flame and twin soul relationships. So go to my blog if you're interested. Okay, so there's some truth in that, and this can be experienced, but it's a lot different from how people think it is. Anyway, this is something that is coming forward this week, and so some of you may actually realize that your relationship has a much higher purpose than just passion, lust, or specialness for that matter, and even if you're not in a relationship, I've noticed with a lot of empaths the last week that there was some kind of frustration and almost depression setting in due to the lack of inspiration. So all these things that I talked about here, divine consciousness, higher power, faith, sovereignty, integrity, they lead a person to discover the larger purpose and the larger power going through them. And there is a beauty in devoting ourselves to that with the right portion of selflessness. All right, those are very high vibratory concepts, and I struggle talking about this not because of the terminology. I do these kind of talks here at transCODES all the time. We have live webinars and trainings, several times a week. This is not it. It's because I know that it could be understood in the wrong way, because when we are not in this high vibratory alignment, all this like woo-woo talk sounds like a bunch of BS. And I get this, all right? But right here, right now, I want to talk to those of you who are aware of their alignment and who are consciously and actively and courageously, seeking a life of self-sustainability, sovereignty, and abundance and healing and love. And this week will trigger something really, really cool in you if you can sustain this place of inspiration. All right, on the vibrational scale of energetic states that I've developed, I can only show this in my edited version. I have not yet figured this out with YouTube Live, so I was struggling with this before we started the energy update. It's at this state, the number 8 state, when we cross the barrier of the heart consciousness. All right, this is a very difficult state to maintain, but there are important messages there that come in this week. And the sort of coded message for all of you, if you can allow this to come in, because your true self, that higher this aligned part of your consciousness will understand this. All places are here, all times are now. This is the message for next week, the coded message. All right, and as far as like how this has been feeling for us in the past weeks, I don't need to repeat this. I feel like a broken record, so I'm going to omit all the neck pain that we had and the headaches and the ear, eye, nasal pressure, all stuff related to our 5th, 6th, and 7th chakra that we've been dealing with. And as far as like the predictions for the next week is concerned, it will be, and you will notice the shift. This is coming in here today, yesterday, is this real strong discrepancy between your first chakra issues, which very often have inner child and karmic aspects, but also like core and systemic aspects in them. And if they are unresolved, all this work in the last months was about those. So if they're unresolved, they're going to come back. And your 7th chakra, your crown chakra, that part in you that is able to link in with the divine consciousness. And then, of course, the processing part in between here, okay, your 3rd and 4th chakra. So you're going to feel triggered in some of these really cool things like twin flame, divine consciousness, devotion, faith, and you're going to feel this in your heart. And then you will feel the temptations of your ego. And the temptations of your ego are fear, specialness, and power. And actually force, as we discussed last week. So it's actually not force, not power, because as long as we externalize our inner power, it has to be sustained and it turns into force. Okay, these are some of these metaphysical concepts that I discuss in my blog and in my self-healing community and so forth. But you're going to feel this temptation next week in your 3rd chakra, greed, you want more of this and more of that, and even in regards to practical things. And this is kind of practical things such as money, such as more of whatever the pleasure is. And there are some core questions that you can ask yourself next week in regards to these energetic clearings that we're going to be experiencing. And the first questions, I've worked this out for you. The first question is, of course, and this is always important for us, is to ask ourselves, what is really true to me? Is this really true to me? What do I truly want? What do I need to feel safe? But then next week, there's also going to be another aspect of that question that will be coming in for all of us, and that is, well, how do I want this? This is the qualitative aspect. Right? It's not just about the money on your bank account, or the fact that you are engaged or have a relationship or are married. That's not enough for us anymore. Okay, so we're going to have to contemplate a bit about how we want things. And then we also need to ask ourselves if we are actually willing to trust in our inner guidance that perhaps has already been guiding us into this direction, even if you cannot see this at a given moment, like the example that I did in the beginning, with my different careers, that totally made no sense to me and made me feel like, I can't follow through on anything, or, like I'm just, fickle or whatever. It's not. I have followed my inner guidance, which has always led to one and the same thing, and that is what I am doing today. But 30 years ago, 35 years ago, this job description, energy healer, energy coach, didn't even exist. How could I have been able to see this larger picture back then? I wasn't. But I trusted in my inner guidance. And this is what I want to remind all of you guys on now. This week there'll be a lot of guidance that comes in for you. And if you can't figure it out with your mind, and your ego is going to tempt you into say, oh no, I'm going to go for the safe thing. I'm going to go for, what the collective or what others tell me to do. I can predict to you that this will be a mistake if this is not congruent with you. And so on the larger scale of our collective here now, looking at geopolitical things, looking at things in the financial markets or environmental things, we have these two energies coming together here in this next week. And it's kind of like the masculine and the feminine energy. This happens almost pretty much every year towards the end of the year, with sort of the height of it at the winter solstice. And we make a big deal out of winter and summer solstices here at transCODES, not because of a specific belief, but from an energy point of view, these two events, also with the equinoxes, usually mark quite a significant shift. All right, and the winter solstice in particular is sort of the rebirth or the reintegration of the divine feminine, of feminine energies, and this is starting now. So this is a process now that will last for the next 4 or 5 weeks. All right, and this will affect all areas of our life. It will affect our earth and earth's changes. So we're going to see a lot of air and fire coming together. Whatever this means to you guys, I'm still getting earthquakes, explosive earthquakes, unfortunately. And as you know, Iceland is a very active, volcanically active island. So part of my attachment to that is also because I'm afraid that it would actually occur in Iceland. However, there's also other areas in the world that are looking very reddish to me right now, and that's the whole sort of west coast of the North American continent and some of the Pacific Islands. But anyway, so earth changes will continue, and I'm seeing like this explosive, fiery type of a volcano. There's different types of volcano, not the type Eyjafjallajökull that it took out the airspace here in over Europe last year or 2 years ago. That's a different kind of volcano. So anyway, yeah. So and in our political scene, the revelations of truth will continue, and we, as I said a few weeks ago, we're going to move into the consequences of that truth. And as I predicted in my energy forecast for 2017, some of these will be shocking. They have already been very shocking, and this will continue. So if we put our faith into our governments or into institutions, even insurance companies that are supposed to protect us from things, then I would call this the externalization of your higher power. Okay, and this is not what you want to do in the future. Then we'll see probably also some more of this terroristic activity. Not so much, I believe, in the sense that we had this in the last 2 weeks, where it was just like people completely freaking out because they couldn't hold this energy anymore. More so faith related again. This is coming in really strong for the end of the year. And the biggest news is really in the financial markets, okay? Because it's not really a conspiracy theory anymore that there is a big shift in the financial markets, and we are experiencing this live now. And everything that I said at the beginning here of the energy update, remember I talked about identity, I talked about sovereignty, I talked about integrity. These things are all happening in the financial world right now, because everything that's not integrous, everything that does not offer a concept that allows for a synergetic development. I mean, just talking interest rates and so forth, putting your money into your bank account for saving, in a savings account, is like, I'm not a financial expert, but that does not make sense. And so the cryptocurrency world here is now really condensating sort of as the vehicle that helps us to transition into this new era of financial, and not just financial, actually the entire information transaction, information transfer, and also, and this is something that has happened this past week and will continue this coming week, in regards to the privacy, in regards to our data, the sovereignty of our data. And you've heard me talk about this before, decentralization, some of these concepts that come in with this blockchain technology is something that is going to change our world. And many believe that it's going to change our world more than the internet ever did, or the smartphone. In 10 years from now, we will all use this kind of technology, and we're in the birthing stage, and you know this. I have been passionate about cryptocurrencies for a long time. And though I want to make a little side remark here, looking at my rereading my energy forecast for 2017, I did talk about alternative currencies and cryptocurrencies, but what I didn't see was that all these impulses that I got about gold and mining, gold mining, was actually about cryptocurrency mining. All right, so this is how, the nature of our precognition is sometimes does not allow us to see certain parts of the truth or certain facts, because we don't have the context yet. I could not imagine that this whole cryptocurrency mining and also trading and ICO ecosystem would explode this much. I knew it would, but I had no clue that it would be in such a dimension. And therefore it's just like, what they say about the Native Americans that could not, that saw, the ships at the shore, but had no way to contextualize what it was. And so this is how I felt at the beginning of the year. And I just had to use my mind to resort to things that I understand, that I know. So I predicted that precious metals would rise this year, and they didn't. And I don't think they will next year either. I'm pretty sure that at some point, this will come back to our attention. But at this point here, and the reason why I'm adding this new section in the energy report, namely crypto news, is because this is our new reality. Okay, this is our new paradigm of interacting on the practical level, on the level of data. And you can kick and scream about this or toss and turn. Data is what determines our reality. And it's about time we claim that we own our own data, guys. This is a huge thing. And I've mentioned this before, back in the days when I was 16, 17, with my friends back then, there was a similar movement, but that kind of got suffocated by the industry. A lot of my hacker friends all went into, insurance companies and academia and so forth, and, had kids and calmed down. But it's all coming back now. Hey. Yes. Some of these people in the crypto world are actually the same people from back then, so this is exciting for me. And while I'm glad that I did not become a coder in the end, I have become a transcoder for the human nature, which is very strongly related and very cool and very exciting for me right now. But anyway, here's the crypto news. Okay, so we had a bunch of hacks last week. Was very disconcerting for a lot of people. And I have been saying this to you guys, that the crypto world is a wild west right now. And assuming that most of my clients here or most of the listeners here are not software coders or, even remotely familiar with any of this, I have been recommending to stay put, to wait a little, because the technology is at the birthing stage, and mostly the sort of the user the consumer apps and applications, they're just not far enough developed for you guys to do secure transactions at the moment. But there are some things that we are learning with all these mistakes that are happening in the crypto world right now, and that is that you do have to assume, that your data is not yours yet, okay? And you have to protect it. And this doesn't mean that Bitcoin is all just a bubble and that, people can hack, your money away. They can do this with anything. But you have to assume that all these different companies that you give your data to, your telephone company, your cable company, your insurance company, your banks too, that they have this data, and all it takes is these hacks that have happened throughout this entire year. I mean, now last week it was Uber, that got hacked several months ago, and they didn't admit to this. This is not acceptable, guys. This is non-integrous, and these companies have your data that can create a false identity in this whole sort of ecosystem of data. All right, and we have to claim this. And something really bad happened this week here in the United States, and that was that the net neutrality laws got appealed. And this means now that the cable companies and the telephone companies and the internet provider can determine what we see, what we can't see, how much we pay, and they can actually force us to use certain browsers, certain search engines, and so forth. This is not okay. This is worth fighting for, guys. This is directly cutting into our sovereignty, into our identity, and do not underestimate that. Okay, so if I get banned for this video for saying this, oh well, but this is something that is happening right now. Pay attention to this. And as far as the crypto world is concerned, last week was all this discussion about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and some of the other sort of mostly talked about, such as Litecoin, Dash, and also Ethereum. Don't look at this as a race. These different cryptocurrencies, they do not compete with another. I said this last week already. They all have different functions, and Bitcoin Cash, and maybe Litecoin have the highest popularity and branding, which means that most people who start in with cryptocurrencies, go there first, okay? But do not forget that most of these other tokens, which are like, I don't know, 1,200 right now, they have functions too. So not all of them just function as a security like Bitcoin. And Bitcoin originally wasn't even a currency, it was a protocol. So let's not forget that. It still is, okay? And Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin are derivatives of that have taken this core protocol to make it better. And we're going to see a lot of this in the future. And Ethereum even went a step further and basically created its own, very, very intelligent programming environment, programming platform and language around, which is, leading the way. Those are all companies or currencies that we will see in the future, no doubt, but they're not competing with another. They will all coexist. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a watch list here with every week. But first of all, I want to say to those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about and are really kind of scared, it's valid to be scared, and don't rush into this, okay? My current tip is to build a position, do the first steps. Open up a Bitcoin account. You don't need to have money on there right away, but just have a so-called Bitcoin wallet and start there. The wallet industry is developing so quickly right now that I would say that in 6 months from now, we will have universal wallets that allow us to swap from one currency to another, that allow us to trade all in one. Right now, it's very complicated and you have to have strong nerves and lots of technical backup, and watch a lot of YouTube videos to get through this. So don't bother with this yet, but build a position. Okay, get a basic Bitcoin wallet and start building a position. I think I've said this to like 30, 40 people this week. Just get a little bit of Bitcoin every week, $50 or something, there's a lot of money that can be made in cryptocurrencies, but unless you're willing to spend 2-3 hours a day on educating yourself, I would strongly recommend to stay away from day trading. There are some wonderful Udemy courses, and I do make recommendations if you send me an email where you can learn from people how to do these different crypto investment strategies, hodling, holding long-term, trading, getting into ICOs, initial coin offerings, how to do research on these new crypto companies, and how to do day trading. Okay, there's wonderful courses, and there's some really cool people doing free educational YouTube videos. I love you guys, for doing this, because this is really helping. But in the next 6 months, we're going to see so many changes here that you can just sit it out unless, you feel this inner prompting to jump in now. Okay. Yes, and there is a power in all of that. And if you just go into Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Ethereum, and maybe Dash, you have a good position when time comes in February, March, when the big money is going to flow into the cryptocurrency world. Right now, we're looking at a market capitalization of $255 billion. Guys, that's nothing compared to the trillions that are in the stock market or in other forms of in financial investment in the world. It's nothing. We are at like 0.0% of the money in the crypto world. It's the birthing stage. You have not missed out on anything. All right? So go educate yourself. And that is also my recommendation here, my personal energy tip in regards to the seventh chakra, fourth chakra, and first chakra stuff. When energies like this week, when they come in, when they want to connect us with our higher awareness, with our link to the divine consciousness, you gotta move further. You gotta link into your inspiration, into your inner guidance. You need to educate yourself. Go into this place of learning new things. This is favorable for you now. This is fortunate for you now. So the crypto world is a wonderful new world to explore. And yes, there's many mistakes that can be made at this point. So that's why I recommend, just build a stance, build a position, build and educate yourself and be ready in February, okay, to make bigger moves. And by then, you're going to feel a lot more familiar with all these new terms, and there's going to be a lot better software out there. Okay, so with this video in my written energy report, I'm going to give you a watch list, meaning cryptocurrency tokens that I think are worthwhile studying or doing your due diligence and education on. Yes, we have to come to an end now because it's getting really late, but we had no question here today, mostly because I was talking nonstop, but I really want you to ask questions here in the commentary, all right, because most of you know this. I go really deep into answers, and I love your answers. I do this at transCODES all day long, every day. Okay, here's a question. Crypto is in infancy. My issue is, forgive me. My issue is that it's based on fiat currency, US dollar, and so forth. And those need to crash. Yes, and this is exactly why we are recommending the crypto world to hedge all that. Okay, so fiat currencies, like the ones that we work with, such as the US dollar, that is based on fractional inflation, is extremely insecure, and it will crash because it has no backing anymore. All right, now will this play out in the form that all the banks go bankrupt and the ATMs don't work anymore? I don't know. 2008, I foresaw what happened in Iceland, okay, with the ATMs not working and so forth. But I don't think this is going to happen this way here, simply because there's too many alternatives now. But this is exactly the reason why we need to look at the crypto world, because here we are unable to do peer-to-peer transactions. We are unable to do very low cost and scalable transactions, as compared to things like in the stock market where you had to buy one whole stock. Here you can buy 0.00% of a stock, okay? You can go in with $20. All right. But also because of this environment that is created there is so beneficial for new startup companies that are seeing the potential in this new technology. And I want to give you just a heads up here. The ICOs, or not just the ICOs, the altcoins, the existing tokens that are out there, the areas that you should pay attention to, the areas in which they do business. And that is obviously the ones that create infrastructure for the crypto world, such as Ethereum, but also some other companies that provide vehicles, that provide like the roads, that pave the road for more and for other companies to jump on it. Those will always be there, guys. Okay, these are in a wonderful position right now. Then of course those who use the blockchain technology for things that we couldn't really do before, and there's some very, very cool companies in the lending, in the financial area, where they for just as an example, I'm not going to name this here, I'm only going to offer this in the written reports, that use your cryptocurrencies as collateral, for instance, okay? And there will be a lot of things happening, especially now the next 2 months, I think, in regards to real estate, and then, of course, governance. There's actually countries who have completely or planning to transfer the data of all their entire population into the blockchain, which means things such as property, asset nodes, voting, all your data handling and so forth can be done there, can be done on the blockchain with the use of tokens. Okay, I know this is kind of Chinese, or not Chinese, but foreign for a lot of you. And if you're interested, I've just put a workshop online with Sebastian Hoot, one of the Bitcoin visionaries who travels around the world and does lectures and also Bitcoin or cryptocurrency consulting for companies. A 2.5 hour workshop. I just put this up free here on YouTube for you guys to watch, explaining all the basics. All right. So I have to come to an end here, but thank you for the question, and please continue to ask. I wish those of you in the United States happy Thanksgiving, and those of you outside of the United States, which are way more today than Americans, I think, I wish you a wonderful weekend, and remember your inner guidance, okay? You don't have to be able to understand it. Just trust in your inner light and your higher power. Thank you so much. It's important that you subscribe to the YouTube channel here. I need to make the YouTube channel grow so that I can, get out of the Facebook system. So send me lots of likes, a lot of subscriptions. I'm not monetizing these videos, so I don't really care about that. It's just, it has to do with like how data is being processed in, the search engines and everything. So if you want to see more of me, which is all free here on YouTube, then subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to work with me personally or with all these fantastic energy coaches that I've trained in the past 10 years, and go really into the depth of your personal stuff, then sign up for a session. This weekend, we have the energetic adjustment session called Sovereignty, which is a in-depth clearing that I do with you that comes with a 30-minute energy coaching session on Skype or phone. And on Sunday, we do the karmic relationship clearing. That may be interesting for some of you. So, check on transCODES website, transcodes.com, and see what resonates with you. But know that there is guidance there. Know that there are professionals there who can help you through all these different areas of life. Yes, and the reason why this, sorry for having to come up with a new link. This is why I got stuck in technical problems right before I started. I could not get my phone to synchronize with this event that I had scheduled on YouTube. So sorry for this. There will be an edited version ASAP, okay? But you can always go to if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you have access to all these free videos, all right? Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening, for coming. All right. I see you next week here on YouTube, 2 p.m. on Thursday, and hopefully more often in the future. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.